Welcome everybody to another episode of I Am Billerica. This one seems to be one of two regarding the local election coming up. Tonight happens to be the Board of Selectmen. The three candidates are running. We surely thank them for coming. To my left is Tony Lucacio. He's a hard-hitting right-wing reporter. And to our right is the old guy, Peter Greeley. He's a senior man out in the street.
Can I sue you for that? I mean,
well, you can sue me, but you know, it's hard to get blood out of a stone, as they say. Before we get into the candidates, just had one announcement in the question period, is that just for those people that, throngs of people that may be watching us out there, on March 19th, it goes along with what we're discussing tonight, the Billerica Alliance will be holding a town hall, should be a candidates night. And the theme was, do you know who was speaking for you, is their theme. All the candidates, I believe, from all the different races, whether it's planning board, school committee, and selectmen, obviously. I don't know if there's anything else that's even contested. I don't know if there's anything on the ballot. But from 7 to 9, March 19th, it's a Tuesday night. The first half hour, they have a guest speaker, will be our former town manager and recently retired from the town of Burlington, Bob Mercier, will be discussing the form of government and how it works, throughout the community, how you can get involved. So we surely urge everyone. I mean, everybody sits back and talks about, what the government is doing from, whether it's, whatever department or whatever committee. Here's your opportunity to go up, speak personally with the candidates, ask them the questions you want to, and also to pick up any information they may have. Again, it's March 19th, 7 to 9 p.m. It's being hosted by the Billerica Alliance in Town Hall. It is free. One of the few things around here. Gentlemen, welcome. To start off, just introducing is Bob Correnti, currently Selectman, George Simolaris, candidate for Selectman, and Michael Rosa, who's also currently sitting Selectman. The way we'll go, we'll just throw some questions out there. At the end, we'll give you each a minute at the very end of the show, just to promote yourselves, just to kind of get out there. No opening speeches. We don't want to go into that padded stuff. We'll go right to the meat of the order, and I'll leave it for the senior man on the street here, Peter.
Who's that? Thank you for coming, guys. Spending your Saturday afternoon here before the snowstorm, if it comes, in fact.
One of many.
Thank you for having us.
I'd like to go right to ask all three of you, if elected in the next 3 years, what are your top 3 priorities? Where would you like to see the town in 3 years that the Board of Selectmen can impact? Michael, you close it. Start with you.
Thank you. Well, obviously, we want to try to keep the tax rate as low as we can for residents. There's a lot of vacant commercial industrial space. We've been doing a good job on filling that space. But one of the best ways to help the residential taxpayers to fill that commercial industrial space so that we can bring in the tax revenue that way. So one of my goals would be, I've always supported Rich Scanlon, who's done an excellent job in economic development. And then we have an economic development coordinator who's done an excellent job in bringing companies in. We brought some big companies into Billerica from Cambridge. We've actually stolen them from Cambridge, filled a lot of space, but we need to continue to do that and fill all our vacant commercial industrial space. So I think one of the goals is to support the administration and in any way we can, as well as the economic development coordinator, to fill that space. I think that's important, and I know I've always supported when she came on as a part-time employee, and now I believe she's full-time, and that's a big help to have somebody focused on filling that space, and I think that's a huge asset to the town. So I want to continue to do that. Sewer is another big issue. Even though we're probably 80% sewered, for those people that don't have it, it's a big deal. And
you and I, Mike.
What?
You and I.
Yeah, we both don't have it, but it is a big deal. And when somebody has a failed septic system and it costs them $25,000 to $50,000, depending on where they're located, to put in a new system, it's a big impact on residents. And I think we need to remember that those 20%, even though it's the minority at this point, they're still just as important as everybody that has it. So I want to continue to push to have sewerage put in. I have a long track record of supporting our veterans and our seniors. The senior center is doing very well. I think that one of the things we're going to have to probably look towards is if there's some way maybe we can even expand the senior center. I mean, Donna Popkin does a phenomenal job over there, and you go over and they've used all their space. They've got programs after programs, and the Friends of the COA also do an excellent job in raising money to help fund programs and stuff that aren't funded through the budget. People don't realize a lot of the programs that go on there are not funded through the municipality or through tax dollars. It's funded through the Friends. So I think that we're going to have to look forward to maybe trying to expand that senior center. And then a huge thing is the prison. As long as I sit on the board, I'm going to do everything I can to stop the Billerica House of Correction from bringing violent offenders to Billerica. For many reasons. I mean, it was never a facility for that. But over and above that, when you expand that facility, you're taking sewer capacity away from our residents, water capacity from our wastewater treatment plant, and we shouldn't have violent offenders there. It's a negative impact to this town as far as I'm concerned, and I'm willing to do anything and everything I can to stop the expansion. They say it's temporary, but we all know how state definition of temporary is. The Rourke Bridge in Lowell was supposed to be temporary, and it's been there for 30 years, so I think it's important to prevent violent offenders from coming into Billerica and being housed in the Billerica House of Correction. It was always a low-security prison, and that's the way it should remain. I don't know how much time I have or how long you want me to go on for, but...
We'll hook you when we think you're ready. George, how about you? 3 priorities that you'd like to see accomplished at the end of 3 years, the next term.
Well, if I'm elected to the Board of Selectmen, my first thing I would try to do is bring some fiscal responsibility to the town, and I know that sounds cliche-ish, but the point is our taxes have went up 62% in the last 10 years, residential, and that is above 2.5%. It's pretty much double the 2.5% allowable, and there's many reasons why that happened. New growth is, of course, one reason involved, and new buildings coming on, and the assessments and how property values decrease, and town residents have to make up the levy. But anyway, fiscal responsibility, to sum it up, would be one thing that I would like to do. Transparency in government also sounds cliche-ish, but I would like to try to get the issues such as the prison, the budget, different items that we'll be talking about, and making clear that the residents can understand, not that they are ignorant, but they don't have much time and they don't know what's going on in town government because of the fact that if they don't watch town meeting and they didn't watch the selectmen's meeting and they didn't get the Lowell Sun, where would they get their information? So anyway, number one would be fiscal responsibility. I would try to make issues clear, and I know, I'm not saying that people are not doing that on the board now, and I would try to seek out the town people's opinions and advice, because I don't think the town meeting right now, and nothing against town meeting, is reflective of the whole, the town. 1%, we have 40,000 residents in Billerica and 200 town meeting members. How many town meeting members actually is it? 240 if they all attend, and that doesn't happen. But anyway, we can't even fill up our town meeting seats right now. So there's a lot of apathy in government. So what I would like to do is try to make town government more involved, and actually, I won't say exciting because it can't get too exciting. But we have a great town. We have a lot of opportunities for our town. We have a lot of industry here. The biotech people are coming in. We have a good tax base, and I think our schools right now, and they're not in very good shape. I know we have the new schools that we haven't paid for yet. We're starting to pay for them this year. So I mean, our taxes went up quite a bit. From $57 million in, I have the thing right here, well, residential tax went up from 35 million 10 years ago to now 57 million. And I know it's just a statistic, but the taxes went up a lot, and I don't know what we're getting for it. And the third thing I would like to do is bring more people involved in government, young people, old people, and show them that it will help all of us if we can get involved in government, because it's different opinions. And right now, I think, and on the Board of Selectmen also, you know, that's sort of an elitist group that's running the show. And I won't say that in a bad way. It's because people don't have time to get
Well, I'm going to take it at that. If
I don't say it as compliment.
And I know you're on the board. No, what I mean by
you
that is that we need more, a better spectrum of different people, elderly, people that don't have time to get to town meeting.
Oh, I'm in favor of the elderly.
And, I know you are.
I'm getting close to that.
Anyway, I just don't think that the board's vision right now and the Board of Selectmen is reflective of many people that live and vote in this town. And I think that it's not anybody's fault, but I think they're apathetic, and I think that we can get more people involved once they find out that they can actually do something. And I think I could help bring some more enthusiasm maybe into government.
Okay, Bob,
that's it.
Bob?
First volley there.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good, good.
Moving on
First of
up.
all, I think 12 years on the board, I've served with a number of people. And some of the people that I've served with don't support me, support these fellows. And I would never call any of the people that I've served with elitists. I don't think Mr. Hurd, who supports these folks and supports me, I don't think he's an elitist. So even the people that are against me, I would never call them an elitist. And I think everyone that I've served with in 12 years, whether we've agreed or not, the last thing I'd call them is elitist. But anyway, as far as priorities and goals, last November, this was, I think, the second year, the board set goals. So, you know, you don't have 5 people running in 5 different directions. We've tried to work together, setting goals for the administration, and I support those goals, and some of them were mentioned by my colleague, but the number one goal of the board was to continue the fight against the expansion at Middlesex House of Correction. And, you know, that's the top goal, numero uno, and I support that. The board supports it unanimously. Number 2, economic development. Absolutely. You know, we have a split tax rate here in economic development. The more we do there, the more we put relief, we take away that burden on the residential taxpayer. And you know, as vice chair of NIMCOG, I'm pleased that we were able to get $1 million for the Middlesex Turnpike development, which was stagnant for years and now has some traction. I know you had worked on that, Mr. Jimmy, and now there's some traction to it. The administration was able to carve out $20 million for that project. That's a key economic development project here. Seeing that, Allen Road is another project. Absolutely in favor of that. And you know, sensible economic development is really something that we all champion. Taxes is the third. I think we've done a good job. If you look at Billerica, we're in the middle of the 351 cities and towns. If you go back and look at the data, as some people point out, back 12 years ago, the average individual house was worth $133,000. Today it's over $300,000. But look what you get for that, for the taxes. We have a damn good school system, public safety, the paramedics. People say if you're going to have a heart attack and flop on the sidewalk here in Billerica, we have a real good, you know, paramedics. Very good in Merrimack Valley, well known. And look at what we've done in the past couple of years. We've really tightened up and said that we've got to keep spending no greater than 2%. And we've done that. We've done that. In the past 2 years, we've been under by $2 million, and this year we'll be under by another $2 million in our spending. So we've done that. And we haven't gone to the maximum of Proposition 2.5 in the past couple of years. We've been underneath what the maximum that we could spend. Our budget and our spending has been underneath that. So that shows the tight fiscal restraint, tight fiscal control and strategy that we've had. So I think, you know, the residents, you know, no one likes to see their taxes go up. This past year, the average tax rate went up around $80. And I think that tight control has been demonstrated by the board in the past couple of years in the administration. And I think it's really key now as we move ahead, as we're talking about projects such as the school department. You need to really keep going with this tight fiscal strategy. And so I support, you know, these long-range plans that we have in the financial end that are consistent with that tight fiscal strategy. We haven't cut services, yet we've been able to cut spending. So those are the three, and this, I'm sure we'll talk about them in greater detail.
Right. You three, you see that. I have a question, and it goes to all three of you, because all three of you have brought up the topic of the prison. And I have to say that Mike, I just use you because you're first in the line down here, right?
Okay.
Is that I agree with you when it comes to the sewer and water. That part of it, I surely think that you have control over as a municipality out there. To go back to that prison years ago, before some people were on this earth, it was a jail too, as well as a house of correction. And just recently, and I say recent, the last 10 years, there have been people kept up there. Just so you know, people understand it. There have been people, because it hasn't had enough room, and people got to understand a jail means people waiting to be tried, and the house of correction means you've already been convicted of a sentence of 2.5 years or less. So we've housed them up there for years, all right? You brought up values of homes and stuff. Well, I have an issue with that because I go to Concord. I look at the values of their home, and they got a state prison there. I look at Middleton. They have a house of correction with a jail side there. They have, you look at their home values and everything up there. I would hope if you guys, whoever's on that board, if you can't stop it, you get as much mitigation as possible for this community. And one of the things I throw out there is job security. In other words, why we do it with businesses when they come in. You guys that are on the board know that. We ask that people hire Billerica residents first. I would hope, and we had the what do you call it, the sheriff on here, that if this goes through, one of the things that one of you two or you three would push is that Billerica residents, if they qualify, would be first hired for something like that. When it comes to jobs and up there. Because if we're going to house this, and if you can't stop it, I would hope that you people work to minimize this, because I think it's going to be very difficult to stop. That's my personal opinion. Are
you running again?
No, I'm not running again.
Not
Are you kidding me? No, I'm out of that scene. Quickly.
Well, probably, my colleague can answer too, but
Yeah.
we're in the middle of negotiating all this right now.
I
and pushing
understand that. And there's some things you can't say.
That's right, but you raised some very strong points. I mean, you have to be realistic that, we've seen time and time again. I'm from the state, and I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
And, but we've really dug our heels in, and there are things that we can really push back on, and I think we're doing it aggressively, and we're trying to do as much as we can. Change is difficult here, and I don't think anyone wants to wake up the next morning and have a host of characters housed up there that are, the real hardcore. Now, someone can come back and put forward some sort of security plan or whatever, but that's all part of the discussion. And, I think, right now, I think it suffices to say that we're against it. There is some discussion, and we've got to push back on it. And we want to represent, as we have been, representing the residents of Billerica, not just the people around there, but the entire town. And, make sure that we take a hard stand on it.
And I know I went to you first, Mike, if you have
That's
any
okay.
comment.
I think
What I said, I mean, that's...
Bob's right. I mean, our first line of defense is to try to stop
Yeah.
it. But I agree with you, Jim, that if it's going to come, we want as much as we can absolutely get. Not just in security aspects of things, because we want to make sure that if it's done to protect the residents of Billerica with top-of-the-line technology and everything. But also, I think it has to go over and above that. I mean, the problem with dealing with the state is, and we learned this when we were doing 40Bs, if you don't have sewer capacity to give sewer to residents, and then you use that same reason not to to approve a 40B, the state doesn't take that as a legitimate reason to deny that 40B. Even though they're putting density of housing greater than you could ever plan for in a location, they won't accept it. But yet we can't give sewer to residents that have been in town 30, 35 years waiting for it. But that's the problem with dealing with the state. Everyone thinks, well, it's the state and it's the town and, government works together. It's really not true. I mean, the first way we learned about this house of correction was when they announced it in Cambridge.
Yeah.
I mean, there was absolutely no, let's approach the town of Billerica, let's tell them what we're doing, let's have a little foresight, let us at least tell them we're going to announce this. Nothing. And we had a meeting, DCAM was there, the sheriff was there, Selectman Correnti was chair at the time, and, we hammered them. And we're going to continue to hammer them. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm on that board, I'm going to fight this. But you're right, it's a two-prong approach. First, it's to stop it. And then secondly, if it does come in, we want to assure the absolute highest level of security for the residents. And on top of that, what else can we get, from the state? There's things that I think should be on the table.
Got to kind of slow you down.
Sorry.
Just because we got other
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
George,
Sorry.
we got a couple.
Okay, well, thank you. But anyhow, they are going to spend more than $30 million to make an addition on this prison that's going to be temporary. So it shows you the money that the state's willing to put into this. They must be in a bind or whatever. But we have residents that have been waiting for sewer, as these guys just talked about, these gentlemen, and it's sort of unfair that they're going to allow more people to utilize the sewer program when our residents have been waiting, and some will be waiting until the next lifetime. But as they said, we may not be able to stop it, and we want to mitigate and get the most we can for it. However, I don't want to see our prison look like Concord Prison with the barbed wire up. It already has been. Really, I know our prison.
Have you driven by lately, Judge?
I've ridden by it quite a few times.
Barbed wire.
I know. It's rather ugly. It used to have no parking up onto the front grass. My son flew those remote control airplanes, and I've been there for years. And I think our prison was a beautiful prison. That used to be a farm prison. No, that was a farm, a working prison, and we let those buildings be deteriorated. Still, it was there. So the state has their own agenda, and I think that we need sidewalks down Boston Road. On the curve
said the same thing,
by
George,
Bear
but
Hill.
that's beside
And
the
I think we need sidewalks on Salem Road, which is another state road, 129. So I think
That's a state issue.
right,
It's
I
not
know,
an issue.
but this is a state entity.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think that if we're going to allow this to happen, for whatever reason, I would like to make sure that the state, Governor Patrick, and I think this is where we need our contingent of a state rep and senator here to do some work with us and to work with the state. Yeah, I know. But anyway, so I think if we do allow it to come, and we can stop it, we can say, look, we can't put more water into the sewer system right now. And so they can say, well, you know, we'll cut back. But anyway, I would hold them hostage, and I'd keep their feet to the fire.
I got to cut you short.
Can I just
hold on a second? You get 5 seconds.
Well, 20 seconds more.
20 seconds.
Yeah. I think the message should be that, as Selectman Rosa pointed out when the GCAM was here, we've taken a very hard stand with them. And we've continued to take a hard stand. And the residents of Billerica should know that the board and the administration has taken a hard stand. We've utilized the delegation with the state representative and the senator against this. And so we're pushing back as hard
That's
as
not the
can
question.
do.
I think we all understand that,
Just they should take that.
Yeah,
It's not
but that's
a
just
slam
saying-
dunk.
What's the downside? Is there any data to support that there are problems in areas in and around other prisons?
Here's a neighbor.
I live up there. Yeah. Is there any data to support that there's
One of the
problems
thing-
in areas in and around prisons?
Well, one of the things I wanted to say about what we were talking about, they're calling this temporary. They're spending $30 million. They're building a structure there. This isn't temporary. There will always be bodies in those cells. So I don't think for a second to say it's temporary is a ploy to try to soften the blow, in my opinion.
What I think, just to correct you, I think what the temporary part is the jail inmates.
Jail part, yeah.
What they'll do, and I believe, is that you'll see the jailmen, because I believe at the time Representative Green and the late Sheriff DePaulo put in a bill on the budget that a new jail would be built on the southern side of Middlesex County. That was passed. So that's out there. Whoever wants to house it's going to be another issue, Mike. You're right. I think the issue here is that what you'd see is just what you're saying. When they put $30 million at all, gentlemen, they're going to upgrade the security system, and they're going to take the inmates that they have now that are overcrowded, and they'll fill those spots there. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's not going to go away. What will probably go away is your jail, not your prisoners that are in house of correction side, just that. But the Tony side is the question, is that, go ahead.
Can I answer his question?
Yeah,
I think
go
you
ahead.
raise a good question. And I think jokingly, some people say the best place to live is next to a
door,
jail.
exactly.
Because if someone escapes, they're
don't
not
stick
going to go
around.
across the street and hide in the bedroom or something. They're going to go miles away. But it contributes to the quality of life in our community. I mean, the residents that live around that area, the sense of security, their quality of life is impacted by what they hear. And we need to represent them. We need to push back.
But there's
on
no
them.
data. That's my question.
I don't have
Is there
the
data to support?
I don't have that.
I think it's-
I think
There's
you could
problems.
safely
Are
say.
there any more problems in
I think you
area
could
in and
safely
around
say that the streets in the neighborhood near a prison least impacted by prisoners, running
So you
into
say
their
it's
house.
safer to be there?
But I wouldn't want to live there, hearing what I hear now. It impacts the quality of my life. I'd be afraid for my children. Who knows?
Let me ask you a question.
Who knows?
What do you hear now? I mean, because they're adding on?
You hear all these stories. Look who's up there now. You get some violent sex offender that's
Yeah,
up
but there
there.
hasn't been any problems.
Hasn't been,
Well, but I don't want to be the first one.
Can I add to that?
That's what I'm asking you.
I don't want to be the first one.
Well, let me just ask you this question. What was the name of Seated Junction before it was Seated Junction?
There you go.
I understand all that.
No, Walpole Penitentiary.
Yeah.
Why did they change the name of it?
Oh, it
Because
changed
it had a
the
negative
law.
impact on the community. It was a
PR
stigma.
thing.
It was a
Right,
stigma.
absolutely.
You hit the nail right on the head.
It was all-
But we
every
don't want that stigma in
prison.
Billerica to
That's why you
start
changed the
with.
Middlesex County.
That's
House
why they
Correction
changed it to
Billerica.
Middlesex instead of Billerica.
Right, we've always had a house of correction.
I mean, we're
Right.
going away from that. I mean, I understand it's a difficult subject. We could have another whole show
Can I
on
add
it.
1 second? to
Okay,
that?
1
Yeah,
second.
well, I'll make it 10 since these guys, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
whatever
But that
you
is
want.
that I think we should get the residents that live near there to come to a forum and put in their, would they come to any meetings, I hope they would, and put in their opinion of it, because they're the ones who are going to be living there.
Call Tony.
Right.
All right, Tony, moving on.
All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
First, I apologize for being a little under the weather here, so if I'm coughing a lot.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I'm sitting next to
George, what spurred you to take on the center project, and then did that campaign lead you to? How did that campaign lead you to running for selectman?
Well, it actually definitely led right into it, because it was less than 100 days ago since we voted on the center project and that it passed. And the center project was, I am a town meeting member, and I wrote a letter to the newspaper thinking that I love our town, I love our center. I thought it was a bad plan all around, 2 years of construction, and it would have ruined the look of our town. And it was, I felt, force-fed down our throat by the presentations at the town meeting by the manager and the different department heads. And anyway, I thought that our town people wouldn't have liked it. So I took the start of the petition, and with help, we got the number of 1,250 signatures that were valid. And then when we got to the selectmen's meeting when we were going to put the date on it, it was voted to go on a Monday, 3 days before Thanksgiving. And I didn't think that was the right thing to do. It could have been on a Saturday, which would have been easier to vote, versus Monday, which was 3 days before Thanksgiving when schools were in progress, and it would have been harder for elderly and other people to get to the polling
that helped
station.
you, though.
I'll leave it out, though. Anyway, I'll get to the right point, that I just thought that our town leaders, most of our town leaders, are not representing our people. And when I said elitist, I didn't mean that in a bad way. We're all elitists, and I love many and like many people on our town government, and I would, if I'm elected, first of all, I want to work with them. I don't mind how people voted. Some people wanted the center. People had good intentions. I didn't think our residents wanted that center to be changed. I didn't think we wanted to spend the money. We have other issues. The schools need to be worked on. Our high school is not in very good shape, and other things, sidewalks in other areas, sewers. But whatever it was, I thought it was a bad deal. I thought it was force-fed down our throat, and I thought the vision of our selectmen, most of them, is not what our people want, and I thought I could better represent the people, and that's why I'm here.
Before we move on to the other two, Judge, a quick question for you, all right? Because I'll forget. I got short-term memory loss.
Yeah, right.
All right. This wasn't just happened overnight. As a town meeting member too, I mean, but this happened over a span of a year. I mean, this has been going on for years. To be honest with you, when I was there, we had different views of the center and stuff. But the goals and objectives, and there was meetings. I think the selectmen had obviously hearings and meetings. And you brought this up during your meetings, I would think. You know, yourself being this, inclusive. Why not get involved in an earlier stage and just wait for town meeting? Did you see this coming down the pipe?
I saw it. I wrote a letter to the Billerica Minuteman a month before this thing came up, and it never was printed. But that's beside the point. I saw the town meeting, the town manager's presentations on BATV several times.
Exactly. He was
My
all
good
over town.
friend Romy Capabianco went to almost every one of the meetings that he had around town. I didn't like the plan from the get-go, and it wasn't. It's my own opinion. And I don't have any fault with the town meeting members that voted for it. I just thought that our residents in general would not like the plan, and I wanted to bring it out to them.
The reason I ask you that, Judge, I interrupt because the other two, is that, because you just brought it up, the town manager went around the town went around to all different different organizations.
Neighborhood
different-
meetings.
Yeah, and everything,
Right.
and presented this.
I realize
And it wasn't
that.
this huge, it was interesting to me. It wasn't this huge, that's why I was wondering why you didn't, you got this involved sooner. That was the only reason I asked that question.
Yeah.
Just so you understand.
Can I just
that.
add the last thing on that?
You got 5
I don't
seconds.
think that people have time to find out what's going on.
Okay,
You know what I
all
mean?
right.
And I
That's
don't
fine.
think they
That-
did.
that's okay.
And our town manager basically lobbied for this. He called my house 3 times
Okay.
to come in, and I don't think we need a town manager who's a lobbyist.
Well,
That's my own
That's-
point. He should
that's
do
another
his job and
discussion.
let the people vote.
that's fine, Joyce. Okay, Michael, you're on his question.
Well, it was only to George.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I take it back.
Yeah, I mean, it was just
you guys-
what got him going into the
Right.
Oh,
this
okay.
process. Yeah.
All right.
So I'll give it back to you. It's your show.
Peter,
Well, my question, based on what was just...
Could I respond to that?
I wasn't talking
I'm
to you,
talking.
Bob.
Okay. But we'll get to you, Bobby, in a minute, because I'm going to ask this question. It's based on what George brought up. It's based on the town center, and it's based on his negative feeling toward the town meeting vote.
Right.
Are you in favor of our choice, and this is to all 3 of you, should we change our form of government?
Great question.
Who's first?
Bobby, I'm
Oh.
going to you because you've
Well-
been quietest the longest.
That's a rare,
That's a
that's
rare-
rare.
It's just a rare happening.
Don't put it to a vote here. Yes, the direct answer is yes. And if you look at this, first of all, this was part of the process. Our charter allows this part of the process. But I feel when you had about a 90% representation, we have elected town meeting representatives, about 90% were there that night, 85 to 90%. And out of those people in attendance, it was a 2-3 hour, presentation, 69%, 133 of the elected town meeting representatives from various precincts around here voted in favor of this, and 59 voted against it. Now, it needed 2/3 because it was borrowing. If we weren't borrowing money, it would have been just, 69 voted for it. But the threshold had to be 2/3 because we were borrowing money. Part of the process was the referendum. And, we don't have to go through it. I think, but, it was
Thank you.
It's curious what it would be if there was a 2-sided debate. Only one side got out, and I think there was a tremendous amount of misinformation put out and facts that weren't facts, and they were put out as facts. But be that as it may, if you look at this, let me just answer the question. As you said, this didn't start over just this town manager doing this. This goes back to the 2002 master plan mentions about the defects in the center. In 2005, there was a study that pointed out the pedestrian problems, the gap in the network there, the sidewalk networks, and the problems there. And then you zip forward. There was a visioning session in March of 2011 that you talk about where the people pointed out that the lack of pedestrian safety in the center. We've heard from seniors at the senior center. And then in September of 2011, at a Board of Selectmen meeting, the Board of Selectmen, on a motion made by Selectman Rosa, it was unanimously voted to set a goal for the town manager to bring forward a plan that would address pedestrian safety and access and the traffic redesign. That was unanimously voted, his motion. And we set that as a goal for the town manager. The town manager went out and engaged a consultant. We spent something like $200,000. We had a state grant of $100,000, so it cost us $100,000. And in November, there was a second visioning session where it was discussed. And then importantly, on September of 2012, we had another meeting at the board where the consultants presented 2 plans. And the more extensive plan, on a motion, again by my colleague, Selectman Rosa, was put forward, and that plan was the plan that was unanimously supported by the board to move through the Traffic Management Committee and some 26 meetings that were held around town, community alliance meetings, et cetera. Now, any plan with change, there's good aspects to it, and there were bad aspects to it, truthfully. But,
was the question?
at the end of the
Wasn't
day...
the question about changing
Well, the
town
government.
At the end of the day, that
How
was
did
the
we get to
process.
this?
It didn't get jammed down anyone's throat. That was the process. And the process was the referendum was available, and he did what he did.
Yeah.
And that's it. So now you have to look at,
Checks
what are
and
we going to do
balances.
at the
Mike, you're
center?
next up.
Thank you.
Is it time to change the form of government?
I don't think so.
Right up? No, absolutely not. The thing about town meeting form of government is it's a good balance between open town meeting and a city form of government, in my opinion. You know, we can elect our representatives to come and represent us. You know, in the budget season, as you know from being on FinCom all those years, it gives the residents of the community that are elected as town meeting members an opportunity to vote on every line item in our budget. And they have an opportunity to have impact on that, make comments on that. And I think it helps foster participation from the community. When you have a city form of government where you have anywhere from 5 to 9 people making decisions, it takes a lot out of the hands of the residents. And I don't support it at all. I like the representative town meeting that we have. I fully support it, and I don't think we should change it. That's the answer to that question. But getting back to the center, 2 things.
Well, let's just stick on that question. I let Bob get off the track, and
I know, and I would like to respond to a few of the things that he mentioned.
Quickly, please. We're running out of time.
2 things that he said, both are correct. One is I did make a motion. I did want to support making the center more pedestrian friendly. And that makes sense to anybody. Nobody wants to see pedestrians get hurt. So that motion still makes sense to me to have the town manager look at that. But, you know, looking at making the center pedestrian safer is one thing. To go to the plan that he went to is another thing. And something I'd like to point out is when we had the warrant articles come before the Board of Selectmen, there were 3 warrant articles. One was to bond $9.8 million, which I did not support. The second was to use $1.2 million of free cash to support the center, which I did not support. The third warrant article to fund the center was to reauthorize 2 old warrant articles. One was $1 million, and the other was $500,000 that had $138,000 remaining in that warrant article, to the tune of $1,138,000. I supported that article. And the reason I supported that is because I do believe that with $1 million+ you can make the center safer for pedestrians without having this grandiose plan of reconstruction. And as far as making a motion to send one plan to the Traffic Management Committee, yes, I did. I did that because could you imagine this whole process and all of the meetings that went through if you had 2 plans up there and you tried to get comments from residents on 2 plans and going in 2 different directions simultaneously? It would have been utter pandemonium. So of the 2 plans, we sent one to the Traffic Management Committee, and they went forward with that, and that was the plan everybody saw. But I didn't think it was a good plan.
Quickly, George,
why do I have to get the short end?
You don't get the short end. You have the most time if we put a clock on you.
Okay.
Just quickly, change the form of government or not?
Well, I don't know why it has to be quickly, because it takes a second to answer that question in a minute. And that would be that utilizing what we have right now when we cannot get people to attend town meeting, and when we have people that come in that do have vested interests. I think that if we did go to a city form of government, whether there were 7 or 8 or 10 people that can be that would have to be relied upon, that would have to be in the forefront, would have to make decisions, and they would have to answer to the public, when it would be not 240 that, and we had a mayor, that maybe our town residents would be better served. Yes,
I'm with you.
And the point of that is that I've talked about this in the past, that if people that don't get involved in town meeting, then you let what I already call the elitist people get in there. And I don't mean elitist by a bad way. George Washington was an elitist, and Jefferson and all those guys. I don't mean that in a bad way. They have who can afford to go to town meeting? Who can have the time? People that have young kids. I mean, yeah, you can make time. If you want to make time, you can do it. And what Bob said to me, not to go back, that I had misinformation. Their misinformation was the taxes. It wouldn't affect the tax rate. I mean, how do you borrow money and not affect the tax rate with the debt stabilization baloney?
Oh, Judge,
but anyway.
I have one question for you.
Well, by retiring debt.
Yeah, but we need more debt.
No, this is just a question you just
Yeah,
brought.
sorry.
No, please. You say misinformation and everything else, but you know, through your campaign,
yes,
and I use you personally
please
because you were
be frank.
Okay, you had signs out there saying $20 million was being spent.
I did, Jim.
Okay,
I did.
But wasn't that misinformation? Because from all the information I got from listening to these gentlemen and others, that it wasn't going to be that high. I think it was going to be close to $14 million.
Exactly right.
So,
except for one thing. Can I answer it?
Yeah, of course. That's right.
That in the finance committee at town meeting, one gentleman got up on the finance committee and said, with interest, that this would be upwards of 20 million. He used a figure of over 20 million. If you go back, you can see it. And we were going to borrow 9.8 million.
Okay.
at interest, and there was other monies that we were going to get from the state that might not have came in. Now, if this project would have went, you know that projects usually come in over what the estimates are.
Well, not necessarily. You can look at our water treatment plant and everything else.
Okay,
came with
well,
it.
maybe
Other
it went,
schools
but it was
came in.
it was a 9.8 borrowing.
This isn't a big dig.
Yeah, okay. I called it a big dig for
I know.
our town.
I understand
And I
that.
think that it would have been 20 million. But if we did pass out flyers, and on the flyer it said, stop the 9.8 million with 14 million. It would have been.
I'm just saying what I saw.
Yeah.
And
Well,
saw
I did
you
have. I
obviously-
had one. I
Okay.
did sign and said $20
Okay.
million, and you know what? It could have been. I tried to take. Some people said it would have been upwards of 20 million, 24.
Okay.
So I tried to take a basic number. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't have done that plan if we could have had it
Okay.
for free.
All right, and I get this quickly. 10
Real quick,
seconds.
real quick.
Yeah.
I guess 2 out of 3 favor this current form of government, and one wants to
I
change
didn't
the
say I
form.
wanted to change
Okay,
it.
Now, number
let,
2.
let him talk.
He gave his
I did.
opinion. Okay.
Number 2, I think the data shows that if you take that 9.8 million
Yep.
and you take the worst case and the best case, the worst case percentage rate to borrow that money, it would have been a little south of 17 million. The best case, it would have been just a little south of 15 million. So the real number was not 20, it was 15 to 17.
If we got the money from the state.
No. That was the borrowing of 9.8 million.
Right, but that
No,
was
no.
assuming you were getting 5 million from the state.
It was borrowing 9.8 million and adding the other 2 million on, so that ballooned up to the 14
But you were
million.
still gonna spend 14.8.
Correct, and we had a couple of million that he mentioned,
Yeah.
and the 9.8 million. If you just worked with those
Yeah, but
numbers.
his point was the project was gonna be upwards of 20 million. That was his point.
No. If you got money from the state, you'd reduce.
If
what
you got
borrowed.
it.
Right, but if you didn't, it would have been around 14 million.
You said
Number one.
17.
No, plus
17
interest.
million. It would have been
Plus
17
interest
million.
on it.
Worst case, 17 million.
Well, they said 14.
I don't have the chart, but it was
Interest
17
included on 9.8, not interest included on 14.8.
Including the interest, it was $17 million, okay? Now,
I still don't get that. I gotta stop
all right,
there.
I'll give it to you the chart.
No,
I'll
I
give you the chart.
just wanna make this point.
Sure.
You're saying 17.8.
No,
or 17 million.
Was the max.
was the max.
Was
Interest
not,
included.
not to do the project. That was 9.8 million plus 6 point some odd million in interest.
9.8 million in borrowing and roughly $2 million of our own.
That's
made
just-
$14 million, and that's the full cost of that project. If we got
Adding
this-
interest to that.
Add the interest, it, worst case, brought it to 17 million.
Was only gonna be $3 million of interest?
Yeah, the interest rates are low. And we had 2
Really?
different ranges. I don't have the Excel
How many years
spreadsheet.
were we talking about?
Maximum 20. But the interesting part, the burden on the taxpayers, this was clearly made by the assessor, clearly made. The burden on the taxpayers, that bond note would have been paid for by the new revenue generated from an expanded and fully occupied mall. Expanded by 50,000 square feet and fully occupied. Those funds would have generated, was it 700 some odd $1,000 that would have paid for the note for it. Now, to validate that, that wasn't speculation. On Veterans Day, the owner of the mall came and met with the administration and economic development people and talked about bringing forth a conceptual plan to do just that, to put a restaurant as you pulled in on the right-hand side and a strip of stores that would be accessed from the sidewalk. So it wasn't pie in the sky thinking. It was actual fact. So that bond would have been paid for by
If he filled it.
If he filled it. And it's, it's on its way, and he was planning to put a restaurant there. So that's it was said economic development was going to pay for it.
Let me ask
Sure.
all three is, right?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
I won't go back to
Trying to
something
jam
Mike
all that
said.
in.
No, I understand, but we did.
Yeah.
Good.
Half the price of this was going to be for putting the utilities on the ground.
Correct.
5 million of
Yeah.
it.
$5 million,
all right?
correct.
Roughly half, all right?
Right.
Right.
All right. I will publicly say that, hey, listen, I've always supported the efforts of putting it on the ground.
I'd
Utilities,
love to have it on the
right?
ground.
I would have rather had it on the utility bills, and I made that comment to our administration, all right? But again, you three gentlemen, what if they didn't? What if the plan was put out there to take away that $5 million? Would the support, would any of you have, well, obviously you supported, but would the other two here, would you have supported the efforts?
No.
Okay.
I didn't think it was a good plan.
Okay. I mean, I
and
accept
one of
that.
the things, Jim, when you were on the board, if you remember, it was around 2004, 2005 area,
Yep.
we had a plan. Richard
we
Montori
did.
was looking at renovating the center. And the biggest change, I mean, it was still the rotary concept
Yep.
and all
I
that.
understand.
It was changing lanes a little bit,
Yep.
but the key was to make it more pedestrian friendly.
Correct.
And that was where the two warrant articles that we reauthorized came from was back then was for plans and whatnot as that project moved forward. And then Richard made the decision, as a good town administrator would, that the financial times weren't right to be doing that project and putting that money in it, so it was shelved. That type of a plan makes more sense to me. And at the same time, if you remember, there
was no discussion of putting it underground then?
No, there wasn't.
No, because, that's why it was cheaper, the plan.
Oh, it was a lot cheaper.
Major undertaking.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, there wasn't, the utilities weren't going to go underground, but the goal of that was to make it more safer for pedestrians.
I get a question for you. I got to interrupt you because we have so much time.
Yeah.
Short answer, because these two gentlemen, right? Question is, if that's the case, when this whole plan started, obviously I don't follow you that close. Tell me, did you object to this plan? It sounds like you supported it going forward. Why not resurrect that plan that you just spoke about?
It's funny you mention that.
Okay.
I went into took a page out of Bob's file system.
I'm glad to see you.
And I went in, and when I was doing the World War I, World War II memorial, at the same time that plan was going forward, we had the conceptual plans of the changes to the common because we wanted to make sure that the memorial was going to be located correctly when the work was done. I brought that to the town manager. And I gave him the copy of the old plan in case it had disappeared. And I said, this is more what you should look towards. And that wasn't the case.
All right, okay, stop there. George, quickly.
Thank you. I just want to retort one thing that Bob said, that two or three people are for the town form of government change. I am not for the mayor change at this point. Or city council.
I was already cheering.
Even though I would like to see you holding a sign for Jim for mayor.
No, not me. I didn't want me. I was just cheering you change the form.
I might have.
I agree.
It's something he hasn't run for
I
yet.
hate to say something, but I agree.
You were already going to run for it.
But I just want to say that I am not for that. But if people cannot get involved in town meeting from different slices of the town, different economic systems, and they don't have town, then I think, yes, that we are going that. But to go back to your... but I would hope we could keep a town meeting form of government.
Don't flip-flop here.
I won't. I'm not. But right now, I think we're in a sad state when we can't get members to come in. And I think that a mayor would be more accountable. I think our town manager is trying to be a mayor, and he's not supposed to be.
These guys spend 10 minutes a night announcing all the openings again.
I'll be quiet.
All right, we already went through the center with you. You did. All right.
What's Plan B? What do you guys see as Plan B for that town center then?
Well, I mean, I said it at one of the selectmen's meetings.
Because nobody wants it to stay the way it is.
Yeah, well,
and I agree. And I
said on traffic management, pedestrians, I agree.
And that's why. Now, keep in mind, the referendum that stopped the center, I was fully in support of that. I voted against it as a selectman. I voted against it as a town meeting member, and I voted against it as a resident, the center plan. But as I said before, I supported the article for the $1,138,000 to make it safer for pedestrians. Keep in mind, the town manager has at his disposal still that warrant article that was approved by town meeting and the authorization to use $1.2 million of free cash. So right now, the only thing that was stopped was the $9.8 million bond issue by the election, the special election. So he could use $2,338,000 as he has at his disposal that was authorized by town meeting
for signalization.
For signalization. You know, back in 2005 when I was chairman of the board and the Concord Road reconstruction was going on, we had meetings, and one of the things that I pushed for was crossing lights back then. And if you look, when the Concord Road reconstruction was being done, there's the infrastructure in place for a crossing light to go from Chelmsford Village on Chelmsford Lane across the street to get you to the sidewalk. And then you can follow the sidewalk up, and there's a second crossing light to get you across the common to where the library is and the senior center and all that. Now, the lights themselves were never put in, but the infrastructure is in place. The ramps are there, the handicap accessible ramps and all the infrastructure. You know, a good start with the money that was left over. Let's put those crossing lights in those two locations.
Let me interrupt you a second. Would you see a demand? I don't see people using those. I don't either. Well, I'm just saying that was. I remember I was there.
Traffic management.
No, there was never a discussion. I mean, just saying. Is that I'm just asking you? Is that I know what you're saying. I don't disagree. But right now, I see elderly. I see people from the council agent. I see people from the housing using, and I see kids from the high school using in front of the library.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
That
should be the fan.
The whole common needs to be addressed. But what I'm saying is, I think there's $60,000 a light. You've got all this money that's authorized to redo the center. You can make 2 crossing points in the center for $120,000 safer right out of the gate. The infrastructure's already there. Then you address the rest of it. I do think there should be raised crosswalks to slow down traffic going through the center. I do think there should be crossing lights in front of the library, and then on the other side.
Fine, because you voted against that.
No.
Yes, you did. I was on the board. I was the only one that voted for it.
That's right.
You guys voted against me.
That's correct.
Yes,
You're
you
absolutely
did.
right.
I remember it was a 4-to-1 vote against putting them there because I suggested to put lights there. You guys went along with the architect because the engineering said just what I just said earlier. There wasn't enough calling because there wasn't enough traffic to do that. I just wanted nothing against you, but both of you voted against.
That's correct. No,
Well,
you raised a good.
I got to move on, Mike. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. If I am elected to the Board of Selectmen, I will try to implement as fast as we can sidewalks from the center all the way to the mall. I would also like to have a nice crosswalk.
Where you getting the money?
We have the money. We have the town
that-
manager has the money in that budget right there for the center.
That money is only so much. Each light.
How much does it cost for for a crosswalk in front of the library with a light on it that the people can hit a button?
What you're saying, George, is
Yes.
I don't disagree with the sidewalk.
Right.
What you're saying is that you want sidewalks now and there, you want the lights and stuff. All this costs money.
I think we
if
have
you're going
to
to
do it.
signalize, which I think everybody wants to
Okay.
do, is improve this, right? Signalize and changing those lights and the electronics and everything else
Right.
is a very expensive idea. That's one thing.
Okay.
To do that sidewalk is not cheap. I don't disagree
I would like
with
to see some of our own local residents bid on putting cement sidewalks in. I
There
don't
are
think it's
there's
going to
bidding
cost that
process
much.
there. We found out with the school.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
You raise a good point. To answer the question, exactly right. What are we going to do going forward? We met the board on November 30th of 2012, and we set a priority to look at the center and to try to do something. Back in 2008, we fixed some lights, did some wiring, changed some timing. But, you're limited now by the current design. Think of it. You stand in front of the Bennett Library, and you want to cross over to the Liberty Bell. You cross from the Bennett to an island to another island, and then from there to the Liberty Bell. It is the worst design and hazardous. And you're right. You're the only one that came forward that time when you were on the board, and we voted against it because.
Visionary.
I'm sorry. yeah. Probably the only time.
The only time. That's why once.
Yeah, and because
once in my
because
life.
traffic engineers.
Scares the hell out of me.
The traffic engineers said that was not,
Yes.
the way to go. And you looked at the lights. It was like $2 million some odd just to fix
The
the current
lights.
lights where they are. So you make changes in the design, you change the structure of the lighting. It's a complex issue. You can't just throw a sidewalk up and whip up a light and think you're solving the problem.
How far away are we?
But we've
Because
asked,
eventually it costs you more when you do it a
Exactly
quick work
right.
type of property.
Exactly right.
Pay for it up front, the
Exactly.
plan, and go with it, as opposed to doing quick work.
Exactly right.
It'll cost us more in the long run.
And part of that money that was for it was also for this work to be done at night, to mitigate the impact during the day.
Well,
But
how
anyway,
far away are we from seeing something?
Well, the manager is looking at it. It's a goal of the board, a unanimous vote of the board to say, come back and tell us what you can do with the current design and the current lighting. And he'll come back with something and we'll take a look at
Did
it.
you put a timetable on it?
I don't think we did. So
No, I don't
the
think
goals
so.
are usually within a year, he comes back.
As a resident, I'd make one suggestion for
Sure.
the 2 or 3, whoever,
Sure.
2 out of the 3 that are going to be there, is that when you look at that center, I said it before years ago, and I'll say it again now, if you're going to change the lights, try to look at a fixture that's more colonial looking, at least, instead of what you have
Yeah,
there.
it's plenty
If
of
you
that.
can go to Chelmsford,
Oh,
look
of
it up
course.
there. It's more costly. Spend it now if you're going to try to improve anything in that center. When you're doing the lights and stuff, I just suggest that you upgrade to that, at least make it
Well,
something.
all the lighting was supposed to be, wasn't it?
It was
colonial
$750,000
type of look with some benches?
for colonial.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
expensive.
It's
I know
more
it, but I'm
expensive.
just saying, but if you're going to do it, like Peter
Sure.
said, you do it all once, you do it right.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely.
I like that idea.
Go ahead.
I got a question for all 3 of us, all right? You talk budgets, you talk fiscals, you talk taxes, you
We gotta
talked
do quick.
everything.
We
I
gotta
know.
give 'em a minute.
And I can only give you a minute apiece, right? The town offers health insurance and retirement, well, not now anymore, but it offers health insurance, the cost of selectmen, and there's only a part-time position. I'll start with Bob on this one. Do you agree with that?
So you
The
agree with-
cost, the town, for members of the Board of Selectmen, is 5 members, right?
Right.
Right? It's been a tradition, but it's been discussed over the years and it's been brought up. But the question I have, and they have to be quick on this because we give you minutes at the end, is that do you believe the cost is, it's close to $10,000.
Absolutely.
So $50,000 right off the bat if all these are
That's
on
right.
it. Do you
I
believe-
don't think it should be offered. In the 12 years I've been on the board, I've never taken a salary, I've never enrolled in the group insurance, and I can't retire and get retirement benefits, and more importantly, I wouldn't contribute to that liability for other OPEB, post-employment. So I don't think it should be offered. I have not taken it. And at $10,000 a year, it's roughly $100,000 that the town has saved by my not taking the insurance. I have not taken it, would not take it. I don't think it should be offered.
George, if elected,
If elected,
do you feel, you talk taxes, you talk costs, you talk
Right.
cutting, would you buy into the, you would be allowed into the health insurance, plan, the town health insurance plan, which is approximately around $10,000, I believe, roughly?
That's the town's contribution. The employee contributes about $5,000, right, Mike?
Not
Is it-
that
is it
much,
about
no,
five-
not a
For
year.
dependent coverage.
It depends on the coverage.
All right, but anyways, whatever.
I
it
think
is.
this is small potatoes. I think if
I
I
agree.
ever did,
I'm with
I
him.
have,
All right,
I
but do you
have,
think you should be offered to a part-time position?
I think I'm gonna work my butt off if I make it to the Board of Selectmen. And if they wanna offer me health insurance and I need it, I'll be glad to take it. And
Okay.
I think it's in the best interest of our town people that I stay healthy, because I'm gonna work my butt off.
Well, why not the school committee?
Huh?
Why not the school committee? Offer it to them.
Well, I
The
mean,
planning board,
all right, if you wanna take it away, let's
just
take
saying.
it away.
Okay.
Let's put a petition out there.
Okay, petition, right. Michael?
Well, I don't know how it became that the Board of Selectmen had it, but it's not just the Board of Selectmen. I think the Board of Registrars also has the option of taking the health insurance as well. And I do get it. I'm not going to kowtow around with it. I take the town insurance. I pay my portion of it. As far as my selectman salary, I donate that back to different organizations as I see fit to help them. And, it's offered. Is it in a $132 million budget? I don't think it's a showstopper. I mean, I believe that there were people in the registrar's office that also have taken it over the years. There have been other selectmen that have taken it before. I mean, Jim, you have it offered to you as a town employee, and I'm
not
sure
on it.
you may not be because you probably have a better plan through your wife.
No, I don't. I have a worse plan. but I'm
Oh,
not
well,
on it.
but it's your choice. You have the choice.
I know,
The
you're
point
right.
is,
No, correct.
the
You're
choice
absolutely
is
right.
presented to people, and if they choose to go on it, then
You're
they
right.
choose to go on it like anybody. And that's, it's there. If it went away, then
It'd go away.
it would go away.
Okay, all right, that's just wondering.
I'm certainly not doing it for the salary, because what is the salary of a selectman? $1,600
No,
a
it's
year?
1,800.
1,800. 18
Don't
if
go
you're
buy a
a
new
member,
car.
and 2,000 if you're the chairman.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
Don't buy a new car. Gentlemen, any last before we?
No, let's give them a minute.
All right, we
And-
started with Mike, we'll start with Bob.
And there's 4 minutes left, so we gotta keep it to
Yeah,
the
we
clock.
got it.
I've had the privilege, the honor of serving 4 terms, past 12 years, and I believe my record speaks for itself, what I've done. I've championed the senior citizens tax relief that helped widows, seniors, the blind, disabled veterans. I represent Billerica on the Board of Directors of Community Teamwork. Through my efforts, we picked up over 7,400 gallons of oil recently that helped 81 families. I represent Billerica on the Board of Directors of Habitat for Humanity, and we've structured a critical project that's helping veterans. We've helped 2 veterans here, and we've got 7 more in the queue to help them with a roof or a deck or whatever. So I'm proud of my record of reaching out and helping individuals and helping those most vulnerable and the taxpayers. As far as the taxes, I've done my share with helping to bring in abatements to help, again, those most vulnerable. I've done my part to try to bring government closer. People often say, when someone's appointed to a board or commission, I send them a handwritten note thanking them for their spirit of volunteerism and getting involved. I try to do whatever I can. So I think my record speaks for itself, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to, again, working for the residents for the next 3 years. Thank you very much.
George, thank you, Bob.
Well, if I am elected, I love our town. I've always been helpful to our town because I love it. I've been a coach for over 25 years of sports. I've played the trumpet at different veterans things, and I love our town, and I love our center, and I love the whole town. And I would reach out to all areas, Pinehurst, North Billerica, for all the people to get involved to try to make our town form of representative government work versus going to a city council and a mayor. That's what I would try to do. And I think I do know a lot of people, and they know that I'm a hard worker, devoted, dedicated, energetic, and enthusiastic, and I will maintain that. And if they would give me their vote, they won't be sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Michael?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the voters of Billerica that have supported me in all my past candidacies. I appreciate each and every vote. It's important. Each and every vote counts. I think I've got a proven track record of supporting our seniors and fighting for lower taxes. I'm the only selectman that ever files warrant articles to take surplus revenue and give it back to the residents, the taxpayers of the town. I want to continue fighting to get our sewer completed. And If you want more information about me, you can go to my website, which is mikerosa2004.com. There's a lot more detailed information there. And I would ask you for one of your 2 votes, April 6th, for Michael Rosa to re-elect me to the Board of Selectmen. And thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for finding the time. Appreciate it. George, I'm still with you in that mayor form of government.
I didn't say, we can't get this working any better. That's what we're going to
Get a
need.
headline.
You brought
Hey,
out a good
Tony,
point.
Yo.
did you hear that our friend here, Jim, almost spoiled the bank robbery?
Let's
I
move
did.
on. Let's move
No,
on.
when was
A
that?
great
Oh,
story.
he's been living-
Almost spoiled.
He's been living a pretty exciting life the last month.
Was he Batman in the center?
Oh,
I
he's,
wasn't a bad man in
Yeah.
the center, I'll tell you that. But
He
Yeah.
likes dressing up in tights.
Well, we're proud of you.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. All right. First of all, you mentioned it, Mike. April 6th is elections. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think we all understand.
Stay home if you're not
Saturday.
informed.
It's a
Saturday.
Well, you should put it on a Monday. You got more
Yeah,
people
you get
on
more
for that.
people on Monday.
Well, I hope we get as many people to come out and vote, and that would be a good way to keep
Okay.
our town
And
representative
again,
moving along.
Hold on, George. And again, I just want to announce that the Billerica Alliance on March 19th, 7 to 9 p.m., you can also meet these gentlemen, ask them questions that we didn't ask them, or get clarification on that mayor form of government. And then we can also go on, which I still support.
Jimmy, are you going to be back? Are you going to be back to ask about the mayor?
I sure will. Anyways, 7 to 9, I look forward to hopefully that,
Yep.
please take the time, get out. They're
Get out
taking
the
the
vote
time,
only
yeah.
if you're paying attention. If
That's
you're not,
right.
stay home. Don't screw it up to the rest of us.
That's it. Thank you, everybody.
Like you usually
Hopefully
do.
the snowstorm won't hit, and it'll finally be spring for these. So when you're out there standing in the common, it'll be a lot warmer out there.
Thank you. Thank you.